Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to Angels and Awakening. I'm Julie Jancius, and I want to start by reminding you that your angels are with you right now. Whether you've been asking for their guidance, healing, or hope, they've brought you here for a reason. This is a sacred space where you tune in to their messages, reconnect with your own intuition, and awaken the next chapter of your soul's purpose. And if you're feeling called to go deeper right now, whether that's through our upcoming in-person Angel Reiki School in June, the 21-day Money Miracles Challenge in May, or a personal reading with me, just know your angels are already preparing the way. I'll show you more about these beautiful opportunities later and in the show notes. But for now, open your heart, ask your angels to be with you, and let's begin. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to the Angels and Awakening podcast. I'm your host and author, Julie Jancius. Friends, I have to say, I am so sorry. I've been on here with Sarah Corbett Lynch, and she is just an earth angel. You are just going to love her and adore her, and you're just going to want to go back up to her and give her a huge hug.
Thank you.
Everybody who listens to this podcast, Sarah, they're so empathic. And I know that they're going to hear your story today and just want to reach out to you. Sarah has a book that I really am going to ask you to support. It's called A Time for Truth. And friends, you know how much I love a good library in your house that you can pass good books on to friend after friend and allow them to read them. This is a book that you have to have in your library. Again, it's called A Time for Truth. But Sarah's story today is one of the most powerful stories I've ever heard. The way that she has moved through such hardship in her life and so many challenges and heartbreak and turned them into love and service and just helping others in this lifetime is just the biggest gift for us all to hear today. So, Sarah, you have a story that I'm going to let you share. You lost your mom at a very early age, and your dad looked for somebody to come help because you and your brother were just so young and he needed that help and that support. Tell us a little bit about that. And your dad just sounds like the best. He sounds like just like the most loving, joyful, fun, loyal, caring dad.
Yeah. He really was. After my mom passed away, he tried to, he was working full time, so he wanted to do it himself. And my family tried to do as much as they could, but my dad is very independent and wanted to be able to, his family to function. So he got an au pair. And after a few different au pairs, there was always either a language barrier or they were only here for the summer. So my dad was looking for someone more long term. And he came across this woman, Molly Martins, on a website who had an amazing CV, and she was from America, so there'd be no English barrier, and she was looking for a long-term job. So my dad hired her, and she moved over. And after pretty quickly, they formed a relationship, and a few years later, they got married. Molly started to say that she was very homesick and wanted to go home. So my dad decided that he would move his job, because he was able to transfer from one plant to a different one to North Carolina, and got us into schools. And he was really active in wanting to make us a part of the community. So he became the soccer coach and the baseball coach, and wanted us to be involved in things and not be nervous to make friends. So he was right in there, like becoming friends with all the dads and getting to know everyone in the community, and going to the cornhole like competitions and stuff like that. So we moved over, and my dad was in love with Molly, and she was kind of the only mother figure that I had known, and my brother as well. What seemed like a new opportunity for our family, and a bright future turned into something absolutely awful, and probably one of the worst things that's ever happened to me or my brother. But at the beginning, I remember when we first moved there, everything was like bright and shiny. Everything in America is so much bigger than it is in Ireland. So the cars, the roads, the houses, it just seemed like a new beginning. And, I remember us walking in the house for the first time, and my dad showing me my room, and I remember running around being like, oh my God, this is so big. And he was telling me how I can get a real princess bed, because he always called me his little princess, because Sarah means princess in Hebrew. So it was always like a little thing that he would always call me his princess. And I remember Molly and my dad walking hand in hand, pointing out where they were going to put the sofa and where they were going to put like the cutlery and all the different things. So it was really exciting at the beginning.
But Molly's behavior wasn't always healthy, and there were signs of that. One sign, too, is just her need for the entire family, maybe even to move to the States just for her. But shoplifting, and there were signs. But as a kid, you don't know any different.
No, as a kid, I always felt like there was something wrong.
Yeah.
I'm intuitive enough to
Yes.
understand when something's not right. We didn't watch a lot of TV. We were a very active family. We were always out doing things, going for walks and stuff. And I wasn't at the age where I'd spend a lot of time in my friends' houses. So I knew no different. But what mother teaches their daughter, that it's okay to shoplift and that it's okay to get sick so that you can stay skinny for swimming when you're 6 years old.
Wow.
And you don't tell your daughter that your dad killed your birth mom, which is absolutely untrue.
Yeah.
And Molly was very manipulative, used coercive control a lot. She told me that that my dad was a bad man, and she would hide his keys and make it seem like it was a fun game for us, but then my dad would be late for work.
Oh, wow.
And she was very physically abusive to my brother and very mentally abusive with me. Mm-hmm. And it was almost like Molly got in all of our heads really quickly, and because me and Jack were so young. And it was like she was trying to isolate us from each other. And eventually it did start to work. There was never an argument, but Molly had us in her pocket. It was like we were a piece on her chessboard, and she was able to play us.
So you're there for how many years before, or how long before?
We're there for about 4.5 years, I think. We moved over when I was about 4. And we moved back, me and Jack moved back a month before I turned 9.
So you're there in the Carolinas, and she has increasing erratic behavior where maybe they're fighting a little bit. He wants to maybe move back to Ireland. And it seems like she's kind of spinning out more. That is a thing with mental illness and stress, where it can kind of exasperate the mental illness as well. And tell us a little bit about kind of like the events leading up to your dad's passing.
You're right. Molly was being very erratic. I had this picture frame my dad got me that had little princess on it, and it was a picture of him and my birth mom on their wedding day. And I knew not to leave it out in front of Molly because it made her upset. She made it very clear to me and Jack that she did not like talking about my birth mom, even though my dad always celebrated her anniversaries and her birthdays and wanted us to know her as a person. But I mistakenly left it out, and Molly came into my room and she ran over to the photograph and picked it up and started saying, "This is not your mother, I'm your mother, this woman is dead." And she took the frame and threw it down the stairs, and the frame cracked and the glass shattered. And then she just stared at me and walked down the stairs calmly and walked across the shards of glass like nothing had happened. And I went down immediately to clean it up, but my dad came home as I was doing it, and I made up some lie saying that I tripped, I fell, I dropped it down the stairs, I'm so sorry. And my dad helped me clean it up. He glued it back together, got a new glass for it a few days later, and I still have that photo today, with the 2 cracked frames on the side. That wasn't really the only thing. Molly was getting increasingly argumentative with my dad. They were having an argument one night, and I don't know what it was about, but I was in bed. It was nighttime, and Molly came up the stairs, and she came into my room, jumped on my bed, and started squeezing my arm really hard to the point where it was painful. And she started saying, "He's going to kill me like he killed his first wife. He's going to kill me like he killed his first wife." And what she didn't realize was that my dad had come up the stairs and had heard what she said. And I remember seeing his entire heart shatter.
Yeah.
I could see his eyes reddening and the tears swelling up, because I think it was the first time that he realized what was actually going on in our home. Because I wasn't shocked that she had said that, because she had said it to me before. I never believed it, but she had said it so many times to me. The only reason I was upset was because she was squeezing my arm. And I think that's what made my dad realize that this is not a good place for my kids to be. And the next day I woke up because Molly had slept in my room, and my dad had asked her, please Molly, can we just go downstairs, let Sarah go to sleep, we'll talk about this in the morning, just leave Sarah's room and let her go to sleep. But the next morning I woke up and Molly was gone, her car was gone, and I went downstairs, and I remember being so angry at both of them because they had brought me into it. And I was never allowed to be mad at Molly. She never allowed it. It was never a question. If Molly and my dad were arguing, I always shouted at my dad to stop, even though my dad never, ever started or instigated any arguments. And I remember going down the stairs, and I was going in to feed our dog, and my dad came up from the basement, and I saw his face, and I could see the tear lines beside his eyes, and I could see that he must have been crying all night because his eyes were bloodshot and he just looked completely defeated. And he came up the stairs and he looked at me and he said, Sarah. And I remember I just ran into his arms and gave him a big hug. And he just kept saying, I'm so sorry about everything. And he was saying that, I'd never hurt Molly, I'd never hurt your mom. I love you guys all so much. And he just kept saying that he was so sorry. And I believed him 100%.
Yeah.
There was no question about it.
Yeah.
I know my dad. My dad was the type of person that got like a cup and a piece of paper to get rid of spiders out our back garden.
Yeah.
My dad was he was a complete gentle giant. But there was a lot of things that were leading up to it that just, there was so much tension. It was like we were all walking on eggshells. You couldn't argue. It was just tension filled.
Yeah. The next day has her parents come in unexpectedly from out of town. And after a day of kind of mingling with the neighbors and you guys playing with the neighbors, gives you pills, which she never does, but gives you pills, drugs you to go to sleep. It doesn't take, and you go downstairs wobbly. She gives you another pill to put you to bed. And I don't even know how to say this, she kills your dad.
Yeah. The third time that I woke up, I was woken up by a police officer, Corporal Clay Dagenhart. And at first I was really confused because I thought it was Tom, because I was still really hazy and I didn't know what was going on. And I remember when I realized it was a police officer, that I remember seeing his badge and then seeing his face, because there was lights from police cars coming through my window, and that's how I could see his face. And he told me he was really, really gentle. And this is one of the reasons that I think is really important to know the whole story. But this is one of the moments where I really did have hope, and I was really lucky that Clay Dagenhart was working that night, because he wasn't meant to be working.
Wow.
He was meant to be off that night, but he worked overtime, and he had a baby at home named Sarah.
Wow.
And he said to me, he introduced himself. He said he was a police officer, and he said that he needed to take me downstairs, and I had two options, that I could either walk down the stairs backwards with my eyes closed, or he could carry me down the stairs with my eyes closed, but I had to promise to keep my eyes closed. And because I felt so like I was on a rocking ship, I asked to be carried down the stairs. And I remember he held my hand walking out of my room, and I met Jack, my brother, who was 10 at the time, and he was with another police officer. And the police officer picked me up, and he held my head in the nape of his neck, and he covered my eyes with his hand just in case. And I'm really lucky that he did, because the scenes of what I would have saw, I could never unsee. And I remember we were walking down the stairs, and when we were on the landing upstairs, it extremely busy. It was like there was hundreds of people inside the house. There was the boots from the police officers, there was the fuzz from the walkie-talkies, and people were talking downstairs, and you could tell there was a lot of things going on. But as we got to the middle of the stairs, it was like everyone disappeared or faded away. It was just complete silence. And all I could hear was the boots from the 2 police officers. And because I knew the house so well, you know, we got to the stairs for the basement, and it was like everyone had just come back in. Mm-hmm. And it just, everything picked up again. And he brought us down to Molly's mom, Sharon, who was in bed, just reading her book with a nightlight, completely calm. And that's, I think, why I was so... I never thought that my dad could have been dead. Yeah. I remember thinking, and that continued on for a really long time. I remember thinking, oh, maybe somebody broke in. And Tom, Molly, and my dad were giving statements or talking to the police about it.
Sure.
But when me and Jack asked, where's my mom and dad? Sharon said, I don't know. The police officers said, wait here. So we waited here. So I never thought that my dad was dead.
Did they know, though?
Did Sharon know? I don't know. I don't know. Did she know? But the 3 dogs, my dog slept upstairs in his kennel, but he was in the room as well. She had 2 dogs. So it was me, Sharon, 3 dogs, and my brother in this room.
Wow.
And I remember I kept kind of falling asleep and waking up, and I was just staring out at the window, which faced our back garden, and we had these beautiful forests behind our garden, big trees, and all you could see was the lights from the police cars and the ambulance. And a woman police officer came into the room and said she was going to take me and Jack to see Molly. And she walked us over, and I remember asking, why is there an ambulance here? And she said, someone got hurt, but it's fine.
Oh.
So again, I thought maybe somebody broke their leg or, you know, got injured. I never thought that, you know, every little girl thinks her dad is a hero. He's invincible, you know, and I definitely did. You know, my dad was 100% my hero. Yeah. He was home for me and Jack.
Yeah.
We were brought over to Molly, who was extremely erratic and rocking back and forth and rubbing her neck, and she had this brown smear all over her face. And I'm another time that I'm really lucky for my innocence, because we later found out that was my dad's blood.
Oh. How do you, as a human being, even start to process, let alone move through this?
It took a really long time. I was so young, so a lot of what was going on didn't make sense to me. You know, I was 8 when my dad was killed, and the last hearing was in 2023.
Wow.
So I've been under the judicial system for more than half my life. So I think it kind of came in snippets, and I've been in therapy since I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
Talk therapy has been amazing. I have a wonderful therapist, Mary. She knows me inside out, and she knows when I'm trying to keep something. She's like, just tell me.
Out with it.
Just out with it, yeah. And I also have an amazing family. I was extremely lucky that when we moved back to Ireland, that Tracy and David never said anything negative about the Martins, ever. Wow. They never tried to change what we thought about them. They let us speak openly about that we loved Molly, that we thought Molly was like a mom to us. We were able to speak openly about it and make our own decisions, you know, and not that must have been extremely hard. I don't know how they did it. Not a lot of people would do that. Mm-hmm. And it gave us the chance to decide how we felt about what happened and actually get the information ourselves, because we were so young, we knew what happened. But I think in the last maybe 5 years, it's in detail, and, you know, we've seen certain crime scene photos and we understand how savage it was and how brutal it was. Mm. And I mean, I believe that it was premeditated and planned by Molly.
Yeah.
And that all the evidence points to that.
Absolutely.
But she's not convicted of that.
Wow. I don't have nearly the same situation, but I had a situation where my dad and mom just were fighting. We were in the middle of the move, and my mom took us from the city that we were supposed to be living in to another city to kind of flee him. I don't know what he would have done. He was a good man, but he was very angry a lot of times. And she did that to just protect herself and to protect us. But my dad passed away. We weren't talking at the time, and I just started hearing from him before I even knew that he was gone. And I really believe with all my heart that our loved ones are just right here with us, even if they're on the other side, that they're sending us signs that they want to still be part of our lives. They want to communicate with us and guide us and know that they see the beauty, that we're putting out into the world and the friendships and the relationships that we have. Do you feel like you've seen that presence with your mom and your dad coming through?
Absolutely.
Friend, if you've been asking for a sign, this is it. Your angels are ready to guide you into your next chapter of service, healing, and spiritual expansion. First, I want to personally invite you to our next in-person Angel Reiki School. It's June 6th through 8th, 2025 in Oak Brook, Illinois. This sacred 3-day training will certify you in mediumship, energy healing, and becoming an angel messenger yourself, while giving you the roadmap I used to build a 6-figure spiritual business. Or keep your day job and learn skills to serve and earn thousands each month on the side. If your soul has felt this calling to serve, this is your moment. Space is limited and the Angel Reiki School always sells out. To sign up, go to theangelmedium.com/get-certified. The link is in the show notes. And if you can't travel, our online version of the Angel Reiki School begins on the 1st of each month, so you can start from wherever you are right now. Next, we begin a brand new course on May 11th that your angels created just for you. It's the 21-day Money Miracles Challenge. This transformational experience is available only inside the Angel membership and will completely reset how you relate to receiving divine prosperity and the soul of money. Over 21 days, your angels will show you how you've been playing small and how to align with soul-sourced wealth and sacred overflow. These are tools and teachings that you'll use for the rest of your life. The 21-day Money Miracles Challenge is only available in the Angel membership now for $111 a month. Join for a single month or become an annual member. Start today and receive a beautiful bonus activation to supercharge your receiving energy. Go to theangelmedium.com/angel membership to begin. And if you're seeking deep clarity, healing, and confirmation, you can also book a personal reading with me, where I connect you with your angels and loved ones in heaven to bring through loving guidance and support. Book your session now at theangelmedium.com/readings. Again, it's in the show notes. Friends, I'm expecting that we're going to need over 50 volunteers to receive a free angel reading from my students during the in-person Angel Reiki School. Some will be live in the Chicagoland area. Some will be online. This is June 6th through 8th. To be considered, all you have to do is leave a 5-star positive review of this podcast. Submit a screenshot using the contact form at theangelmedium.com/content. Leave your 5-star review today, and you might be hearing from me really soon. Friends, your angels are already preparing the path ahead. All that's left is for you to say yes, yes, yes. Say yes to life. Now, back to the show.
I definitely believe that souls are interconnected, and I think especially that someone's that you love is always going to be around because you keep them alive with memories. And there is a place near I live, it's called St. Bridget's Well, and it's like a sacred gem of Ireland, and it's not really well known, but people come from all over the world to leave photos and letters for their loved ones. And it's so special. You know, there's no gate on it. You don't have to pay to go there. It's literally just this little well up a dirt road. And it's, when you walk in, it's just surrounded by photos and, you know, rosary beads and different letters and candles, and you go in and you just feel so loved. And the first time we went there was after COVID. My nana passed away through COVID, and my mom, Tracy, my earth mom, found the well when she was off on a drive one day, and she brought us there. And it just felt like everyone that I've lost in my life was just standing next to me, you know, and just saying, we're here. And, you know, when you see white butterflies, my dad and mom, and anytime there's been anniversaries or something, I always see white butterflies. And at their grave, I always see white butterflies. And I speak openly at their grave. I remember I think I was like 13 at the time, and I had a dance competition, and I did the full dance for them in the grave, the full dance. And I'm sure everyone else thought I was crazy, but I was delighted. I wanted them to see it. I did really well in that competition, and I just felt like my parents were saying well done to me. Yeah, there's a lot of things, even just when a song comes on the radio.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, we were driving to Dublin because I was on the Late Late Show, which is the biggest show in Ireland, which is really nerve-wracking. And the people that I was on with was like the Taoiseach, which is like, you know, the main guy in the government, and it was really nerve-wracking, basically. And this song called Sarah came on that my dad used to sing to me when I was a baby. And I had not, like, as soon as I heard it, I knew it, but I'd never thought about it. I never even crossed my mind. Yeah. And I remember me and Tracy looked at each other, and we were just both like,
you knew.
Hi, Dad. And it made me feel like he was like, you can do this, Sarah. Good job. You know, I'm proud of you, sweetheart.
Yeah. And then he's right there. He's watching, he's helping.
Yeah, definitely.
Amazing. I feel like they were with you as you wrote this book, and that it's just huge service to the world, sharing your story. And it is such a story of love, of your earth mom, Tracy, coming in and the love that she brought. And I think that this story in your book, A Time for Truth, I hope everybody who's listening today just supports it and buys this book, because we buy so many different books, but there are ones that we can pass and share. And I think this is a sacred, beautiful, beautiful book. So
thank you so much.
Yeah. I wanted to bring through a couple of messages for you, if that would be all right.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that there's so many times in life where, unless you've experienced a bigger tragedy like you have, maybe you don't realize until your 40s or your 50s just how sacred every moment is. And when we were talking earlier before we were recording, you were talking about the day before your dad passed, and hearing like the last words that he spoke to you, and that it was just like this beautiful day outside. And it is those little moments of being present in life that I'm really starting to see is life itself, which I feel like you feel. When I was just kind of praying on your energy and asking your loved ones to come through with information, they just said, please tell her that it's so easy for us to get in our own heads and think, you know, is this really making an impact? Is this really helping anyone? But I'm not sure if you've made a career out of this, but I think that if you wanted to travel and speak and teach, you have this beautiful soul that is just here to help and serve. And through your story, I think people will understand. I want to say forgiveness too. I don't think that forgiveness means allowing somebody back into your life. And I think that forgiveness can also mean it still hurts, and it is so incredibly painful for the rest of our lives. I actually think forgiveness is one thing that's so misunderstood.
Because a lot of the time it's kind of like forgiveness for yourself, you know, and that's a big theme of the book.
Yeah.
Because statements that I made became a big part of why the Martins are free today. And that was really hard to come to terms with, because I was so young and I was so scared. And I talk about the reasons why I made those statements, and it's taken a lot forgive my 8-year-old self for saying the things that I said.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people think that forgiveness is just about I forgive someone for hurting me, but it could just be I forgive myself for doing that, or I forgive that person for what they did, but I'm not going to forget it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I get that. I get that so much. When I was talking about my mom leaving my dad, there was this thing that happened when we were moving from Virginia down to Louisiana. And the very first night that we were there, they were just fighting like cats and dogs so bad. My mom got up in the middle of the night and just went for a drive. And I remember being so scared for her because it was raining really bad. She didn't know the area. And we were just in this hotel room and one bedroom, 2 beds. And I remember my mom getting up in the morning, getting into the shower, and my dad just kind of waking me up, kind of shaking me. And he was like, who do you want to live with, me or your mother? And when you're just waking up, you're groggy, you're tired. And I was scared myself. There was a time when I don't want to paint my dad as like this bad guy, but there was a time when a couple months before he said, be home by this time. I had gone to a fair with some friends in the 8th grade and I got home late, and he actually had the guns out and he was shining the guns as kind of a warning of, I told you to be home at this time and you weren't. So I remember being like in a situation where he's shaking me in this morning and saying, who do you want to live with? And I just said, out of fright, you. Yeah. In the courts, he tried to use that to get custody, which was really hard, but you don't know when you're just so little. You're just...
Of course.
Yeah.
I just don't think that that's going to... It's not your first thought that this is going to be used in court.
Right.
You're just trying to deal... As a child, I think you just try to deal with the situation in that moment. You don't have the foresight to understand what's going to happen in the future or how these words are going to affect your life in the future. You're just trying to make everyone happy. I think a lot of
de-escalate. De-escalate the situation.
Because it's 2 people that you love and that you care about.
Yeah.
And you just want everyone to be happy. And I think that's also another thing that I had to struggle with when I was very young, is because I knew that my family situation was not good. I knew that there was a lot of tension, but at the same time, it was still my family.
Right.
Exactly. I didn't want anything to change. I didn't want to move away from my house. I didn't want to move away from my dad or my mom or my brother. And that's kind of a part of why me and Jack made those statements, because Molly had told us that we would be separated if we didn't. Mm. And I just lost my dad. I couldn't lose my brother.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to move from my friends and my school. And, I think that it's a misconception that, like, when kids say things, they don't know what they mean. They do know what they mean, but why are they saying it?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Sarah, you're such a beautiful blessing in this world. When I was praying this morning, they said, ask her one question at the end. Ask her, if you could say something to your younger self and just give her some love and words of wisdom, what would you say to her now?
I would tell her that everything is going to be okay and that she's doing her best and that's all that she can do, and that I'm proud of her.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing your story and writing this book and just being the hugest blessing on earth.
Thank you so much for having me on. This has actually been so lovely. I really enjoyed this.
Oh, good. I hope we get to meet in person one day. If you ever come to the States, let me know, and
I will.
I'll promote your book tour if you ever come over here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, everybody, for listening. You can find Sarah's book anywhere books are found, A Time for Truth, and her name is Sarah Corbett Lynch. We'll put all of that information and the link to buy the book in the show notes. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here, beautiful soul. I know in my heart that you're not listening to this by accident. Your angels are guiding you. And if you've been feeling the pull to go deeper, to trust and develop your gifts, to step more into your purpose, The time is now. Join me for our next in-person Angel Reiki School, June 6th through 8th, 2025 in Oak Brook, Illinois, and receive your certification in mediumship, energy healing, and angel messages all at once. This isn't just a training. It can help you create a six-figure spiritual business or earn extra income doing sacred work you love. Go to theangelmedium.com/get certified to reserve your spot before it fills. And if you can't travel, remember, our online option starts on the 1st of each month. And don't forget, starting May 11th, we're launching our newest course inside the Angel membership, the 21-day Money Miracles Challenge. This is a sacred angel-led journey where you're going to learn how to call in divine prosperity and align with soul-level financial expansion. Your angels want to show you what's possible, and this challenge is going to align you with miracles. Join now at theangelmedium.com/angel membership and receive your special bonus activation. If your soul is craving personal guidance, I have openings for one-on-one readings with me, where I bring through angel messages and loving connections from the other side. You can book your session at theangelmedium.com/readings. This could be the reading that brings you the clarity you've been looking for. And don't forget, we're giving over 50 free readings to our podcast listeners for the in-person Angel Reiki School students to work on you. All you need to do is leave a 5-star positive review of the podcast and send us a copy through the contact form, theangelmedium.com, and you might be one who wins. Before you go, your angels want you to hear this. You're not behind. You are exactly where you're meant to be, and everything is unfolding for you in divine time. Start now. Start with love. Friends, I am sending you so much love. Until next time, know your angels are always with you, guiding you and cheering you on.